Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Kind of doing Free-for-All Friday on Wednesday this week and Casual Friday on Wednesday for those of you that are watching us on video streaming or on television. Dressed in a golf shirt today because this is Casual Friday on Wednesday, since I'll be broadcasting from the Values Voter Summit tomorrow and Friday. So we're glad to talk about whatever's on your mind. 888-589-8840. 888-589-8840. Here is one soundbite before we go to the phones. This is a candidate for the state Senate in Illinois. Her name is Barbara Beller, and she explains Obamacare in one sentence. You're going to love it. Let's listen.
Please. So let me get this straight. This is a long sentence. We're going to be gifted with a health care plan we are forced to purchase and fined if we don't, which purportedly covers at least 10 million more people without adding a single new doctor, but provides for 16,000 new IRS agents, written by a committee whose chairman says he doesn't understand it, passed by a Congress that didn't read it but exempted themselves from it, and signed by a president who smokes, with funding. Same sentence, with funding administered by a Treasury chief who didn't pay his taxes, for which we will be taxed for 4 years before any benefits take effect, by a government which has already bankrupted Social Security and Medicare, all to be overseen by a Surgeon General who is obese and financed by a country that's broke.
So that is Illinois State Senate candidate Barbara Beller. She's bringing it, Obamacare in one sentence. Well, let's go to the phones, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Tim in Dallas, Texas. Tim, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon, sir.
Howdy.
I'd like to say I've been involved in pro-life work for probably 10 to 12 years. We've been all over with various groups around the country, preaching at campuses, on street corners, at abortion mills, doing, holding signs, doing what we can to inform the public, awake them to what's going on with abortion, what it actually looks like. Most people have never seen an abortion unless they see it on a sign. Media blackout and all, But I wanted to say, and I pray you take this with a grain of salt, but you had a personhood amendment. I don't think you live in Mississippi, do you?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay. Y'all had a personhood amendment over there.
Yes, we did.
And I don't know if you're aware, during that past election, or that voting cycle there, that the Archbishop of that diocese over there informed the priests to tell the Catholic priests to tell their parishioners to vote against that personhood amendment.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage you to research that. I'm appalled that you had Frank Pavone on for the simple fact that the Catholic Church has been using the abortion issue as their number one ecumenical tool for over 40 years. And there are several states that abortion could have stopped, but the Catholic Church, the right to life, has stood in the way of several bills that would have stopped abortion or stopped various means of abortion in various states. I encourage you, please, to look that up. And
well, Tim, hang on just a second. Now, you might even be right about Catholic Church and other locations. I'm not saying that you're not. I'd have to do the research you're talking about. But you're not saying that Father Pavone has done that, are you?
I don't know him personally, and realistically, I've seen him with Mark Crutcher on the in the various programs that Mark Crutcher used to send out. But I'm just saying that he speaks as an ecumenical speaker.
Well, yeah, and Tim, I understand your concern, and you may be right. There may be some problems in general with the Roman Catholic Church and certain dioceses and so forth. But I'll tell you, Father Frank Pavone, I followed his work for a number of years, and that guy's a straight shooter. And the official position of the Roman Catholic Church is very strongly in favor of the defense of human life.
They say that publicly, but practically speaking, they are not.
All right. Well, it'll be something to monitor. I appreciate your call, Tim. Appreciate the heads up on that, and we'll keep an eye on that. Let's go to Rachel in Lowell, Arkansas. Rachel, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
I was just wanted to make a comment on the thing that happened to that ambassador.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
It's terrible, just heart-wrenching.
You know, and he was suffocated. I mean, I don't know exactly what or how. The other 3 American victims were shot to death. He was suffocated. So I don't know what that means, but it sounds pretty grisly to me. Anyway, go ahead and finish your thought.
And why does Obama feel like he has to apologize for us? We have nothing. We don't know them anything. They took lives, American lives.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
Well, you know, and you're right. Rachel is right that the first thing the U.S. Embassy did yesterday in Egypt, this was before all the violence, but they issued an apology for whatever Americans had done. There's some kind of movie apparently that's being produced in America that Muslims think insults the Prophet Muhammad. And realize this is one of the huge differences between Islam and Christianity. I mean, we've put up with people insulting Jesus Christ for decades. We have art with the cross of Christ dipped in urine. We have dung splattered on a portrait of the mother of Jesus, Mary. We have the last temptation of Christ on the big screen. And how do we respond? We respond by staging public complaints, by writing letters, by encouraging people to make choices not to support this kind of product. We don't get RPGs and go out and start killing people. But this is what Islam is taught to do. This is what the Prophet Muhammad taught his followers to do. They believe that insulting their prophet is a capital offense. If you do this, then you ought to be put to death for your troubles. In fact, let's grab clip number 3. Thank you for the call, Rachel. I appreciate that. Here's Mike Barnicle and this Pastor Terry Jones down in Florida, and I don't support what Terry Jones did, not something I would do, but he's burned a copy of the Quran. He bought a copy of the Quran. It's his own copy. He ought to be able to do with it whatever he wants. This is America. We have private property. He buys a book and he wants to burn it. That's his business. But in Christianity, in a Christian country, we protect that. But in a Muslim country, that becomes a capital crime. And listen to Mike Barnicle. He's a winger left commentator saying that he thinks the people that ought to be prosecuted for this is not the guys that stormed the Egyptian embassy or the Libyan consulate, but Terry Jones. Listen to this.
Given this supposed minister's role in last year's riots in Afghanistan where people died, and given his apparent or his alleged role in this film where, not yet nailed down, but at least one American, perhaps the American ambassador, is dead, it might be time for the Department of Justice to start viewing his role as an accessory before or after the fact.
So this is just a heckler's veto. In other words, we know that Muslims, basically what he's saying is we know that Muslims are barbarians. They are savages. And so if you exercise your freedom of speech and they respond by killing somebody, somehow in Mike Barnicle's twisted mind, that's our fault. That's your fault. You should have known better. You should have known that they were savage barbarians and would kill somebody in response to what you're doing. So Mike Barnicle has no idea what he has just admitted about the nature of Islam. Mike Barnicle is agreeing with me that what you're looking at on the TV screen with these Muslims, you're looking at barbarian savages motivated by their religious impulse. And Mike Barnicle says, hey, if you tick them off, then it's your fault because you know what they're going to do. So he's admitting that Islam is not a religion of peace, doesn't even realize he's doing it, but admitting that Islam is, in fact, a religion of war, violence, and death. Let's go to Andre in Dallas, Texas. Andre, hey, you're on Focal Point.
How you doing, sir?
I'm just fine. How are you doing? What's up?
I'm doing good. I was just flipping through, and I ran across you, and I am amazed. I'd like to applaud you on what you're saying and what you're going through. I agree with you 100% on if they're going to build a mosque over here, let's build one over there. If they won't let us, let's get rid of all of them over here. It's only fair. Also,
go ahead.
Also, I want to mention, is there another candidate besides Barack and Mr. Romney that we can vote for? Because I prefer to have a true Christian in office.
Well, I appreciate your concern, Andre, and I'm glad you stumbled across us today, and thank you very much for calling in. I appreciate that very much. And we've talked about this before on this program about the possibility or wisdom of voting for a third-party candidate. In my home state of Idaho, there are actually going to be 6 candidates on the presidential ballot, 6 of them that people in Idaho are going to have an opportunity to vote for. Gary Johnson, the Libertarian, I saw this morning, he's on 47 ballots out of the 50 states, and they're working hard to get him on the other 3. But I think the reality is, Andre, the reality is that either Barack Obama or Mitt Romney is going to be our next president. I mean, that is the bottom line. There is no third-party candidate that's got an opportunity to win. In my judgment, from a pragmatic standpoint, a vote for a third-party candidate is in essence a vote for Barack Obama, because that is a vote that's probably not going to be taken away from Barack Obama. It will be a vote that in most cases is going to be taken away from Mitt Romney, the alternative to Barack Obama. Now, I don't have a problem with people. I have zero problem. I want to be very clear about this. I've said this every time it's come up. If somebody has, for conscience reasons, just cannot vote for one of the 2 candidates, either of the 2 candidates that are at the top of the pyramid, because of conscience reasons, I'm going to be the last guy in the world to try to talk them out of that. Because Paul is very clear in Romans 14, whatever is not from faith is sin. If you can't vote for a candidate with a clear conscience, then don't do it. It would be a sin for you to do it. But it's not a sin for everybody to do that. Other Christians may be perfectly free in conscience to vote for one of these 2 candidates because they believe, well, neither of them are perfect, but this one has far fewer flaws than the other, would be far less dangerous for America. Therefore, I'm going to vote for him, even though he's not an ideal candidate. And I think from a pragmatic standpoint, that's the way I recommend that we sort through this thing. Focal Point AFR Talk, back after the news. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
American Family Radio, AFR Talk.
All God asks of you is faithfulness.